I never thought I'd get to a point where I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Sarah, for about 8 years now. We got married pretty young, and honestly, for the most part, I thought we had a good thing going. She was fiery and sharp-tongued sometimes, yeah, but I always figured that was just her personality. Still, she was beautiful, smart, and I loved her. We had our routines, our little inside jokes, and I genuinely believed we were solid. But somewhere along the line, things started shifting. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when, but I began noticing small things. She'd be more secretive about her phone, always locking it whenever she thought I wasn't paying attention. She'd excuse herself to the bathroom or go outside, and I'd hear her whispering or giggling on the phone. Initially, I just brushed it off. Maybe she was talking to her sister or a friend. But then things got worse. She started canceling dates, avoiding intimacy, and would snap at me for no good reason. It was like she was distant and I couldn't figure out why. I tried talking to her about it a few times, but she'd brush me off, say I was overthinking, or accuse me of snooping, which I guess I did a little because I was worried. I wasn't paranoid. I saw the way she acted around this one guy, David. They'd been coworkers for a while. I'd seen her laughing with him at work, and I'd overheard some weird exchanges on her phone. Nothing overtly suspicious at first, but enough to make me uneasy. Still, I trusted her, I really did. I told myself she was just friends with him and that I was being insecure. That's what I wanted to believe. Then one night I came home earlier than usual. I wasn't feeling well and I decided to surprise her. I opened the door quietly, expecting to find her cooking dinner or watching TV. Instead, I heard muffled voices coming from the bedroom. My heart started pounding. I froze outside the door and listened. The voices were low, but I could make out her voice, bitchy, teasing, and someone else. The other voice was deeper, familiar. I couldn't believe it. I could hear her moaning a little and my stomach sank. My mind raced. Who was this? What the hell was going on? I wanted to burst in to confront her, but I couldn't. I just stood there, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I had no proof, just this horrible feeling, this sinking suspicion. I backed away slowly, trying to process what I'd just heard. My mind was spinning. I felt betrayed, angry, and numb all at once. I knew I had to figure out what was happening. I decided to check her phone the next day, even though it felt like crossing a line. I needed to know. That's when I found out the truth: texts, pictures, and even a few explicit messages between her and David. She wasn't just talking to him at work, she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. The worst part, she'd been doing it while pretending everything was fine while I was trying to fix what I thought was a minor issue. That discovery hit me like a freight train. I felt sick. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me like this? It all felt so surreal. I'd trusted her, I'd built my life around her. And now I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I was furious at her for letting someone else come between us, for cheating, for lying. I was furious at myself for being blind, for ignoring all the signs. And honestly, I was scared. If she could do this, what else was she capable of? I needed to think, to plan. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. There was no way I could stay with her after this. Not anymore. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. Those images burned into my brain. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see the signs of her lying, sneaking around. I felt betrayed and utterly humiliated, like a fool for trusting her so blindly. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the complete loss of respect I had for her. How could she do this to me? To us? I kept replaying the moments I'd ignored, the times I'd brushed off her strange behavior as work stress or her being tired. I convinced myself she was just having a rough patch, that maybe I was imagining things, but deep down I knew better. I knew she'd been cheating on me with David, that bastard who'd been tormenting me since high school. Yeah, that's right, high school. David had been my bully back in the day, and I thought we'd moved past that. Apparently, he hadn't. I'd never thought I'd see the day I'd be betrayed by someone I used to consider a friend. Hell, someone I once saw as an enemy. That betrayal felt like some cruel twist of fate. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be careful. I needed to gather my thoughts, maybe even plan my next move. I started searching for ways to get more proof to make her slip up again. I couldn't just accuse her without more evidence. I wasn't that guy. Meanwhile, she was still acting like everything was fine. She was bitchy, dismissive, often snapping at me for no reason. I think she knew I was onto her, but she played it off, trying to act innocent or just annoyed. It made me more furious. Who did she think she was? That night I decided I'd had enough. I set a trap, an email account I set up myself with a fake persona that I used to message her. I wanted to see if she'd contact him again, if she'd slip up or try to hide it better. I told myself I just needed to know the truth. Sure enough, within a couple of days, she contacted him again. I watched her send a message, then saw her quickly delete it. She was trying to hide her tracks, but she didn't realize I'd been watching. That was the breaking point for me. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know what she was doing. The anger boiled over and I decided I'd do it face to face. I couldn't handle another night of this sickening silence. One evening I sat her down after dinner. She was bitchy from the moment I mentioned I wanted to talk. It was like she knew I was finally catching on. Her eyes darted around, trying to avoid mine. I looked her straight in the face and told her I knew everything. I played her the texts, the messages, the proof. Her face twisted into a sneer and her reaction, denial. She told me I was crazy, that I was just paranoid, that David was just a friend, that I was accusing her for no reason. The attitude she had, so dismissive, so full of lies, made me want to scream. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she strip away the life we built and just toss it aside? I told her I couldn't do this anymore, that I deserved better than a wife who cheated on me with her high school bully. She scoffed, called me insecure, and told me I was overreacting, but I knew better. I saw her true colors clear as day. That night I couldn't sleep again, but this time it was worse. It was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. After that confrontation, everything changed. She kept acting like nothing was wrong, but I could see the cracks. The bitchy attitude was worse, her words laced with venom whenever I tried to talk to her. She insisted she was innocent, that I was just jealous or paranoid, which only fueled my rage. I'd never been a jealous guy, but seeing what she'd done, cheating behind my back with someone I used to hate, made my blood boil. Honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. What made things even worse was that she started meeting up with David again. I'd catch her sneaking out late at night, her phone buzzing constantly. I knew she was lying, covering her tracks. I felt like I was in some sick movie, like I'd been played the fool all these years. But I wasn't going to let this slide anymore. I started planning my revenge, though I wasn't even sure what that looked like yet. I just knew I had to do something. The first step was digging deeper. I wanted to find out if there was more to this than just a fling. I installed keyloggers on her phone and laptop. I hacked into her email, which she thought was secure. Every new message, every new rendezvous I watched in horror. And I found out she'd been seeing him more than I thought, sometimes even lying about where she was. She'd be gone for hours, claiming she was at work or running errands when I knew she was with him. The betrayal was worse than I imagined. She was throwing away our marriage, our life, because some stupid high school bully had suddenly become her friend again. I was furious, but also feeling a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I decided I'd had enough. I wanted her to feel what I felt, utter humiliation, betrayal, and heartbreak. That's when I started implementing my plan. I wanted her to see she couldn't keep lying to me, that I wasn't some idiot who'd turn a blind eye. I started by gathering evidence to expose her, then planned the final confrontation. I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling with anger. One night, I set everything in motion. I had a friend, someone I trusted, who was good with computers. I asked him to help me hack her phone one last time, to retrieve all the messages and photos she'd deleted. When I finally got the files, I saw things I wish I hadn't, pictures of her and David together, explicit messages, even plans to meet up again. I felt sick, but I knew I had what I needed. This was the proof I'd used to end this once and for all. I waited until she left for work, but really, she was meeting him. I knew her routine, the way she always went out after I went to bed. I stayed up all night waiting. When she got home the next morning, I was ready. I sat her down, laid the evidence out in front of her, and told her I knew everything. Her expression was priceless: shock, then defiance, then outright contempt. She told me I was crazy, that I was overreacting, and that she'd never cheat on me. But I saw her lying through her teeth, her eyes darting, her hands trembling. That moment I decided enough was enough. I told her I was done with the lies, the betrayal, the fake marriage. I told her I'd be taking everything, our house, the savings, whatever I could get, and leaving her to deal with the fallout. I didn't want anything from her anymore. I wanted her to feel what it was like to lose everything she'd pretended to care about. I wanted her to know the pain she'd caused me. And as I said those words, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. It was the end of us. At least I hoped it was. The fallout was messy, to say the least. I had already decided I was leaving her. No way I could stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. But I didn't want to do it without making her feel some of what I'd gone through. That meant confronting her with everything face to face, not just dumping the evidence and walking away. I wanted her to see the destruction she'd caused, to realize what she'd lost. When I told her I was leaving, she didn't take it well. Her bitchy attitude turned into pure rage. She yelled, called me all sorts of names: controlling, insecure, crazy. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I wasn't about to sit there and listen to her spin more lies. I leaned in and said, "You lied to me for months. You cheated on me with someone I despise. Do you know what that makes you? A fucking slut, Sarah. You threw away everything we built for a cheat's thrill." Her face went pale, but she still tried to deny everything to save face. I packed my bags that night. I wanted out, but I wasn't ready to go quietly. I started making arrangements, talking to a lawyer, and planning the next steps. I didn't want her to spin her usual bullshit and get away with it. I wanted her to feel the loss. She begged me to stay, of course. Said she'd change, that she loved me, but I knew better. I knew this wasn't some mistake she'd fix overnight. It was who she was: bitchy, manipulative, and willing to lie her way out of everything. As I moved my stuff out, she followed me around, crying and pleading, trying to guilt-trip me. That's when I finally realized how deep her lies ran. She'd been so good at hiding everything that I'd almost convinced myself I was overreacting. Now I saw the truth plain as day. I was done being her fool, her doormat. I told her I didn't want to see her or hear from her ever again, that I was going to start over, rebuild myself after this disaster. I left that house feeling empty but finally free. The worst part, the guilt and anger still lingered. I kept asking myself, why did I let it go on so long? How did I not see the signs earlier? But I knew. I had made the right decision. No matter how much it hurt, I couldn't stay married to a woman who lied and cheated behind my back, with someone I hated and who'd bullied me for years. The aftermath was brutal. She kept texting me, trying to apologize, claiming she was sorry she ruined everything. But I didn't buy it, and I didn't respond. I was done. I knew I needed to focus on myself, heal from the betrayal, and rebuild my life. Still, sometimes I think about her, about what could have been, and it stings. But I also feel a strange sense of relief, like I finally woke up from a nightmare. I guess I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's damn hard to repair. And I learned that some people, like Sarah, are just not worth the pain they cause. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. Living alone, dealing with the emotional chaos, and trying to piece my life back together was a constant struggle. I didn't want to fall into despair, but every time I thought I was making progress, something would remind me of what I lost. It's funny how betrayal does that, sneaks into every corner of your mind. I kept having moments where I replayed everything, wondering if I could have done something differently, if I missed the signs or was just blind to her manipulations. But then I started noticing something strange. Sarah's calls and texts stopped. She didn't try to contact me anymore, which I guess was her way of giving up. That felt strangely freeing at first. I'd been so consumed by her lies that I'd forgotten what peace felt like. I began focusing on myself, going to the gym, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and finally taking time to breathe. Honestly, I felt like I was starting to heal, but the anger still simmered beneath the surface. There was a part of me that still wanted revenge, even if I knew I'd never act on it directly. One day, I ran into David unexpectedly. I didn't go out looking for him. I was just at a local coffee shop minding my own business. When I saw him, my stomach clenched. That bastard still looked the same, cocky, smug, like he hadn't a care in the world. I could feel my fists clench, but I kept myself in check. I knew I couldn't get sucked back into that toxic cycle. Instead, I just stared at him, and for a moment I felt a strange sense of satisfaction, knowing I'd exposed him, knowing I'd won in some twisted way. But the real turning point happened when I realized I had to forgive myself first. I'd spent so much time blaming myself for not catching her sooner, for ignoring the signs, for trusting her blindly. Slowly, I started to understand that her betrayal wasn't my fault. It was her choice, her character. That realization was freeing. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could change how I carried it. I became determined to rebuild my life on my terms, not hers. I started dating again, cautiously. I didn't jump into anything serious right away, but I knew I deserved better. I reconnected with old friends I'd pushed aside during the chaos. I even went on a few trips alone, trying to find myself again, away from the memories. Each small step felt like a victory. I was reclaiming my happiness, one day at a time. That's what I kept telling myself. Healing isn't linear, and sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can climb back up. I was finally on my way there. Looking back, I know I learned some crucial lessons. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. I learned not to ignore the small signs, but also not to blame myself for someone else's choices. And most importantly, I learned that revenge isn't about hurting others. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your own peace and dignity. That's what I'm working on now: healing, forgiving, and moving forward. And honestly, I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone, but if it's taught me anything, it's that I'm stronger than I thought. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've changed. The betrayal didn't just break my heart, it forced me to confront a lot about myself and what I thought I knew. I learned that sometimes people aren't who they seem to be, and trust can be shattered in a heartbeat. But I also learned that I am resilient. I survived, I adapted, and I'm slowly rebuilding a life that's mine again, free from the lies and manipulation. I've come to understand that revenge, in the end, isn't about hurting her back or getting even with David. It's about reclaiming my dignity and peace. It's about not letting their actions define me. I've realized that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for myself. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what they did. It means letting go of the anger that's been eating me up inside. That's the real victory. The moment I stop letting their betrayal control my mood, my happiness, my future. The hardest lesson was accepting that sometimes people are just not worth your energy. Sarah was a chapter in my life that I needed to close. I don't hate her. I feel pity for her, honestly, because she lost herself in her lies and she lost someone who loved her genuinely. Now I'm focusing on myself, on healing, on growth, on building something better from the ruins. So if there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, it's this: trust takes time to build, but it's fragile. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal, but don't blame yourself if you missed them. People can be good at hiding their true nature. The most important thing is to remember your worth and never settle for less than honesty and respect. When the betrayal comes, and it will for some of us, it's going to hurt like hell. But you're stronger than you think. You can get through it. I'm not perfect, and I probably still have days where I feel like crap. But I know I'm moving forward, and that's what matters. I learned that pain is temporary, but growth is forever. And one day, I'll look back on this and realize that I'm better for having gone through it. I've taken the lessons, the heartbreak, and the anger, and I've turned them into a reason to be better, to do better. That's all anyone can ask for.